Here's another one thing. You know, I talked to you about progressive stand hunting, and I've done progressive stand hunting here quite a few times over the years with success. You know, like when you're coming down here, you have to cross here. That's the only way to get across this area here. Get over there, and say that's number one. Yeah, you're like the first half day I hunt. This would be a logical one here, especially if there's fresh tracks. That's the other thing. You gotta always have fresh tracks made by a big buck, or at the very least, doe urine, you know, in the snow, spotted with blood. And if you got that, that's as good as fresh tracks as a big buck for being able to take a buck in that particular vicinity. So anyway, or tracks of a buck dragging his feet from track to track, going into this area here. That's another good one. Well, he smells the deer and you see that. But in this case, there was no doe in estrus when we hunted and got this buck. But that's where he was feeding, and he wasn't moving all the way that far. From there to there was probably only about 6 blocks, something like that. And so he's sticking to this area pretty much. But fresh tracks every day in that area. And so you get over here, and when you're going there, you might see where he's walked before here, the morning before, or that morning, or where his tracks came up into that area or across this area. But I'd find his fresh tracks every time, and that's so important. And most time that's good enough. You know, you'll get some bucks, but a case like this buck, geez, fresh tracks weren't good enough. You had to have more. But anyway, I could start here and watch this area, and let's say with the wind from the west, and be this way or northwest. Be good winds for that, and start there. And if the wind's the same the next day, this could be a real good one. And this could be a good one for the third half day, you know, each half day moving up. But a lot of times, you know, it doesn't work that way. We just won't have the same wind blowing from the same direction every day in a row, or a half day in a row, and it changes. And sometimes when you're planning on progressive stand hunting, you know, moving from one to another every half day, sometimes you have to change your mind a little bit. You know, like let's say the wind starts blowing from the north. That would be from this direction, and this would be no good, and this would be no good, but this would be good. You know, so I might go over here, and this might be the first one there. And the next day it's blowing from the north, but I don't want to mess with that buck bedding area. We don't mess with those until the last day or so of the hunting season, but because once you spook one out of his bedding area, he's going to leave the whole area for the rest of the hunting season. So stay away from them. But you know, next half day after this one, I could go here. We got a north wind, and then let's say it switches to the west. Oh boy, that's a good one. Then this could be number 3. Or if it switches to the south, that could be number 3. This could be number 3, 4. You know, in that direction. They're always far apart. And what makes them especially good is if you've never used them before. You know, if you keep using them the same spots every year, or even in one hunting season, if you're going back to the same spot, probably the first time you hunt there, the first half day you hunt there, if you don't see him, it almost always means he found you and he's already avoiding you. That's why you didn't see him there. And that's no big deal. I mean, you say, how could that happen? Well, he's been doing it for 5 years, avoiding hunters here for 5 years. Well, that's duck soup for him this year. Oh, I know how to avoid these guys, you know, no problem. So, anyway, no matter where we sit, it works best. It doesn't, you know, maybe last year you spent a lot of time, you hunted there, or earlier in the week or something. Well, 100 yards away, and if it's a new spot you never used before, your odds are much better there than they would be otherwise. If you used it the year before, but you only used it for a half day, chances are pretty good this could be a good spot this year, you know, because you didn't overuse it. You only used it for 1/2 day there before. The scents that you left there are gone in 4 days and they aren't there anymore. And every time the buck goes by, if he spotted you there early, from that time on, even the following year, he might, you know, maybe make it a point to go downwind there somewhere, maybe keep out here in the heavy cover and checking air currents and gee, if the air scent is going up in there, so, he's there. So, he's keying on that spot, see if you come back there again. So they do that. They do that. The big bucks do it all the time. And that's why one of the main reasons they're so hard to see. And you don't know it. You don't know when it's happening. Well, anyway, progressive hunting, gee, you got a whole bunch of spots you can decide to use here. Yeah, or if you decide you want to use that large group stand hunting approach, which really kind of gets them in a net. And it makes them a little careless and after they've found somebody and they're avoiding them. So anyway, those are two good ways to do it, two ways to stand hunt in the area. One of the things that makes it easy to use new stand sites, maybe some you've never used before, you might get out here and because of the wind direction you say, well, geez, I want to hunt right here. That's favorable for the wind is coming from this way from the feeding area in the morning, or if it's in the afternoon and the wind's coming in, well then you want to be crosswind. You might decide, oh gee, I'm going to get over in this area somewhere where I can keep an eye on this edge here. And you can do it anytime you want. Any day you want, you can be downward or crosswind, wherever they are when you got a stool that you use, where you hunt at ground level, using good concealment at ground level and a stool. And your odds of taking a buck are ever so much better when you're able to do that. And like I said before, because bucks so often change feeding areas, that, you know, after he's found you a couple of times, maybe he'll decide, well, I'm going to start feeding over here now. And you go back there, you know, you're on your way back from a stand site or something, following this trail. This is a cruise trail, a Nordberg cruise trail going around this way. Practically all the trails we use up here in this country for getting to and from stand sites are deer trails that have been cleaned up so we can walk on them with relative silence. But this trail here is different. This trail was made by me 25 years ago. On the last day of the hunting season, I was up here alone and shot a big dominant buck, about 1.5 miles from here, long ways. It took me 11 hours to get that deer back to deer camp. When I hit this area, what it was a recently logged area that was just smothered with second growth popples, 6 to 10 feet tall. And getting that buck with those big antlers of his through this area was almost impossible. And finally I gave up and decided I had to make a trail. So I got out my hatchet and started chopping these little popples at their bases, and I created this trail through the woods. And remarkably, since that time, we haven't done a thing with this trail. Moose and bear and deer, bucks with big antlers, have been using it regularly to cross this area. Big bucks would have a really tough time getting through this area around here. Bucks with big antlers, they'd be tangled up all the time. So this is a major game trail now. But it's remarkable how long a new trail like this can last. And when we started down here this morning, I look at this thing. That's a trail I made, and it's been like this ever since. If it wasn't used, it would be all filled in again with timber. So we know it's being regularly used. And you go around there, and there's no fresh buck tracks anywhere along there leading to the water or anywhere. And then you get up and they say, oh, gee, there's really fresh tracks up here. And he's gone in this way and he came out, oh, I want to hunt here now, or here. And watch this feeding area. And you can do it right now, today, or later today, or tomorrow morning, with good odds of seeing that buck there in that feeding area. So the stool I call that mobile stump hunting. I called that earlier. That was earlier. That was the early way that we hunted with a stool. I just called it mobile stump hunting. Wasn't very sophisticated. It's not like opportunistic stand hunting where we're scouting during the hunting season, finding these places. We just went on whatever we found during the day, coming to it from stand sites, and that was it. And then we'd go and hunt there with the stool. Forget all this other stuff. Well, we didn't know about it yet when we first started then. That's enough for today. With that, be sure to poke that red button down there, that subscribe button. And I appreciate that. It's important to me. And also the thumbs up, poke that if you liked what you heard today, and I can't imagine you didn't, so that's no big deal. But it's big to me. So do that, guys, and get your book. So don't waste a whole year and then 2 weeks or a week before the hunting season, get your book. There's so much in there, you just aren't going to make head or tail out of it before the season starts, and you're going to have another season this year like you had last year, if that's the case. So if you want to get ready for a good season this year and get your pre-hunt preparation in the woods done and all the scouting you need to be able to do this and get a stool, that you need some time for that. That takes a while to get ready for really good buck hunting like this. So do that. And with that, thanks again for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Be sure to visit my website. Here's the link. Here you'll find links to my blog posts, my Twitter account, my YouTube account, my Amazon store with links to my ebooks, my son's eBay store, a money saver if you're ordering from Canada or other countries, my website bookstore, and much more.